Good morning, students. Hope all of you are safe. Beta, as you know that now we are revising chapter 2 of your book, and name of the chapter is Writing and City Life. So beta, till now we have discussed about the Mesopotamia and its geography. With that we also discussed the significance of urbanism. And the other topic we discussed, that is the movement of goods into cities and the development of writing. So beta, today we start from the topic the system of the writing. Beta, the system of writing, it was developed in Mesopotamia. Beta, here different signs, these were represented not by the single consonant like these are presented in English. So beta, there were hundreds of signs that a scribe had to learn. Scribe are the person beta who just write on the clay tablet. So those were known as the scribe. And even these scribes, he had to handle a wet tablet and get it written before it dried. Like we read in the previous lecture that these clay tablets were made, and when these were wet, then the scribes wrote on it. So beta, writing was a skilled craft, and it was very important because it needs the intellectual achievement, because there were so many hundreds of different signs that convey the visual form of the sounds in a particular language. So now the next topic is about the literacy. So beta, very few Mesopotamians, they could read and write. It means literacy rate was not high. What was the reason? As we have read in the previous topic, that there were hundreds of signs to learn, and even many of these signs were complex. So that is why this was the reason that the very few Mesopotamians, they could read and write. Now beta, the next topic, that is the uses of writing. The connection between city life, trade and writing, it's brought out in a long Sumerian epic poem about Enmerkar, one of the earliest rulers of Uruk. As you know beta, writing, if we talk about present, अगर हम आज की बात करते हैं, then also literacy is very important, writing is very important, because the written things, उसकी जो feasibility होती है, that is more evident. So beta, in the same way, just because of these writing, there was a connection between city life and trade and writing. And do you know, like this one epic poem is also found about the Enmerkar, who was the earliest ruler of Uruk. And in Mesopotamian tradition, Uruk was the city par excellence, often known simply as the city. Means it was known as the excellent city of that time. And this Enmerkar is associated with the organization of the first trade of Sumer. It means first time trade was started in this city. So according to this epic, trade was not known, and Merkur wanted lapis lazuli and precious metal for the beautification of a city temple. And he sent his messenger out to get them from the chief of a very distant land called Ereta. It means this ruler, he wanted some precious gems and stone. That is why he sent his messenger. And the messenger heeded the word of the king. And that is why he had to go up into the mountain ranges and had to come down out of the mountain ranges, because beta, and in the ancient time, when the people are to go to the faraway places, then roads were not there, right? So that is why they are to just pass through the mountains. So the people of Susa, that was a city that was below the mountains, they saluted him, and he crossed the 5 mountain ranges, even 7 mountain ranges he crossed. So after crossing so much way, after passing so much long distance, he reached there. And even the messenger, he couldn't get the chief of Ereta. to part with lapis lazuli or silver, and he had to make the long journey back. Means even he didn't get that silver, and then he came back. So ultimately, the messenger grew weary of mouth. He got all the messages mixed up. Then, beta, do you know that verbal communication? There are so many disadvantages of verbal communication, because if sometime the person has said something and the message is passed on in a different way, but if any message is in the written form, then its meaning will remain same always. That is a very common thing, right? So that is why now this time Enmerkar, the ruler of Uruk, he formed a clay tablet in his hand and he wrote the words down. So there had been no writing down of words on clay. Beta, उस particular time तक there was not any system of writing on the clay tablet. So writing started from that time. Now he gave this written tablet, and the ruler of Ereta examined the clay. The spoken words were nails. His face was frowning. He kept looking at the tablet. So this way, beta, the Mesopotamian, they started writing. And this poem also tells us that beside being a means of storing information and of sending messages far, writing was seen as a sign of the superiority of Mesopotamian urban culture. So beta, this book or this epic poem, it was just written to tell the people that how the writing was started in Mesopotamia, in the Uruk city. Now beta, the next topic, this is about the urbanization in southern Mesopotamia and temples and kings. Beta, from 5000 BC, settlements had begun to develop in southern Mesopotamia, and the earliest city that emerged, these were of various kinds. Those that gradually developed around temples, those that developed as center of trade and imperial cities. It is cities of the first two kinds that will be discussed here. It means the cities, those are developed near the temples, and the imperial cities, those are the centers of trade. So these two types of cities we will discuss in this topic. Beta, the early settlers, they began to build and rebuild temples at selected spots in their villages, and the earliest known temple was a small shrine made up of unbaked bricks. And do you know, these temples, they were the residence of various gods, of the moon god of Ur, or the Inanna, the goddess of love and war. So these way, beta, different temples were built in Mesopotamia, and now these were constructed in brick. Temples became larger over time with several rooms around open courtyard. Means day by day the architecture of temple, it was improving, and even some temple, they were like the ordinary houses. So temple always had their outer walls going in and out at regular intervals, which no ordinary building ever had. It means, beta, their walls were coming in and out. One image is given. You can see this image, beta, how these walls, these are just going in and out. Can you see this picture, beta? Here somewhere it is in outer wall and somewhere it is out. So this was the architecture of temples. That was the specification of the temple buildings of Mesopotamia. So beta, here the god, he was the focus of worship, and the people offer them grain, curd and fish. The god was also the theoretical owner of the agriculture fields and fisheries and the herds of the local communities. And the processing of produce, for example, like grain grinding, spinning and the weaving of woolen cloth, was also done in the temple. Organization of production at a level above the household, employer of merchant and keeper of written records of the distributions, allotment of grain, plough animals, bread, beer, fish. So beta, as we are reading this, what we come to know, beta, these temple places, beta, these just come up at as a place of trade, right? And simply these cities around the temples, they gradually developed just because of all these manufacturing and processing activities, they were happened around the temples. So even in Mesopotamia, there was the natural fertility, but still agriculture was subject to hazards. Like some area, they get so much water from the Euphrates river, so sometime the fields were flooded, and as these archaeological record shows, the villages were periodically relocated in Mesopotamian history. Means these villages, these were relocated to different area. So what can be the reason behind this? Reason can be any type of natural calamity, so that people are to move from that place. And even there were some man-made problems also. Those who lived in the upstream stretches of a channel, they could divert so much water into their field, and the villages downstream were left without water. It means at that time also, so many consequences were there, that who were living at the upstream, they can divert the river channel, or they could neglect to clean out the silt from their stretch of the channel, blocking the flow of water. So this way, this Mesopotamian area, it saw repeated conflict over land and water. And even there was a continuous warfare, means at that time also so many wars were fought. And even those chiefs who had been successful in war could oblige their followers by distributing the loot, and could take prisoners from the defeated groups to employ as their guards or servant. Means जो भी ये rulers होते थे, whosoever chieftains, they won the war, what they did, they could get these prisoners, जो prisoners of war थे, और and they can employ those as their slaves, their guards, or as their servants. So beta, even they would send men out to fetch fine stones and metals for the benefit of the god and community, and organize the distribution of temple wealth in an efficient way by accounting for things that came in and went out. So beta, in this way, if we have read this, such war leaders, these chieftains, means the people who won the war, beta, they just came up as a leader, and they just increased their community, and they settled up new institutions, and now they offer the precious booty. Booty क्या होता है? Whatever money they get after the war. Means जब when any person he won any war, जब कोई person कोई लड़ाई जीत जाता है, तो वो उस एरिया में क्या करते हैं बेटा, सारी जो मनी होती है या कॉस्टली आइटम्स होती हैं, वो लोगों से छीन लेते हैं, and that is known as booty. And do you know what these people has done? They offer this precious booty to the gods, and they beautify the community temples. So beta, these temples, those were beautified. Now if we see this beta, means all these chieftains regularly they were doing work just to make their army more efficient, more powerful. And other than that, in Uruk, one of the earliest temple town, we find depiction of armed heroes and their victims, and careful archaeological surveys have shown that when Uruk grew to the enormous extent of 250 hectares, twice as large as Mohenjo-daro, would be in later centuries, dozens of small villages were deserted. It means there at that time that cities were developed, those were very large. Means twice as large as Mohenjo-daro, but still dozens of small villages they were deserted. So it is just showing a major population shift. So beta, all so many reasons were there that how these villages were deserted, and why the population it was shifting from one place to another. So beta, till here, now other topic we will discuss in the next lecture. Hope all of you have understood the topic. Thank you and have a nice day.